Ending my 5 years marriage over a paternity test my mother-in-law requested. Original post, I'll try my best not to make this a word wall. I don't know where to start. This whole situation is embarrassing and I am just done with it. I've been with my husband for 5 years now, married for 3. Well, long story short, his mom was always overwhelming and bold with her input on everything, to put it nicely. I genuinely think it's not fair to be mad at your partner for something he didn't do himself. He can't control what his mom do or say. But what's also not fair is him not addressing it when I am clearly uncomfortable or upset, and instead just talking me into brushing it off or going with it. I never, nor would I ever, have a back and forth with my mother-in-law. Just not worth barking at each other. I always kind of brush it off if it's a snarky comment or if it's a better way to do something in her opinion. I'll just tell her thanks for the suggestion, but we are fine. It's actually true. The saying, when you marry someone, you marry their family. I think the way to handle it is each spouse should keep his side of the family in line, for lack of a better way to say it. I deal with my parents and their shenanigans, and I expected him to do the same. He never did. He always asks me to give her some grace. Well, it's hard when that person is insulting you. For a while now, she's been making comments about how my son doesn't look like my husband when he was a toddler, basically accusing me of sleeping around. This, rightfully so, upset me. Sorry, my genes are strong, what do I tell you? I was short with my husband because he didn't address how out of pocket and disrespectful this whole thing is. It has been a week since my husband, well, soon-to-be ex-husband, told me that he would be doing a paternity DNA test, not because he thinks that it's not his son, but to shut his mom up. Yes, exactly what you read. IDK, which one is worse, him accusing me of cheating or this shit? But all I know is this is audacious. I didn't cheat, and I am not concerned one bit about the test results. I wasn't going to stop him from taking a DNA test or whatever, but I just know I don't want to deal with this any longer. I am looking for an apartment, and I talked to a layer the day after he brought this DNA test thing up. And I've been acting more than normal since. We'll be getting the results in 2 days. I can't wait. He would be also getting divorce papers with that too. I know for fact he won't see it coming. I tried my best to make this whole thing work and manage my relationship with my mother-in-law as gracefully as possible. But thinking about it, it's not just my mother-in-law that's the problem, but how he is handling things is also a problem. And side note, I never been more glad that I didn't leave my job when I got married. He makes more than enough to take care of the financial side of things. I thought I would get bored. I only have to be on site 2 days per week also. I really love my job and the company, so I didn't leave. Best decision I ever made. He is unreliable, to say the least. I know that divorce can be hard on kids, but I experienced the other side. Living with 2 parents that hated each other and violently fought almost all the time is as hard, maybe even harder. They thought that staying together would be good for me and my siblings. Newsflash, it wasn't. It was traumatizing, to say the least. I don't remember. I either read somewhere or maybe my therapist told me that when you fight with your spouse, you shouldn't see it as me versus you, but more like me and you versus the particular situation or problem on hand, and try to figure it out. But it's really hard to do so when you start hating that person. I don't want my son to live like that because I tell one thing, I just can't stand my husband anymore. I take if this is a weird way of saying it, but I just don't respect him anymore, if that makes sense. I just see an unreliable man, and I know for fact that our fights won't be the same as before. I would have said what a waste of 5 years, but I have a sweet and smart gremlin now, and having a child really pushes you to be better and to do better, so I can't complain. Now for the update. Here to update you, as a lot of people were interested. But real quick, I have a comment about my last post. Please, if you are going through something serious, think twice before posting it. Obviously, I was expecting people to tell me I am overreacting, or even that je m'invente une vie sur Reddit. But there are also people who would leave you with comments like, "You're a disgusting piece of shit. I hope he takes your child from you in the divorce and you realize what kind of monster you are," and go about their day, which was my cue to stop reading comments that night. The update. The day he was supposed to receive the results, I called my FIL and invited them to come over that evening. He was working when he got the results. He sent them to me and told me he would talk to his mother to finally put this to rest. I informed him that I had already invited them for this evening, and I am just waiting for my apology before I leave. I asked that he come home so we can talk before they come over. He called, and I basically told him that this is not working for me anymore. I've already talked to an attorney, filed for divorce, and it might be more expensive than a paternity test, but it would be more effective making his mother happy. And no, I don't care that he was working when I told him. I don't think you would have either. He left work and came home. Long story short, we had a spectacular fight. He said that I am not thinking about my son, and I am overreacting because it's not like he went behind my back. And if he knew that I was this upset, he wouldn't have done it. But he knew. We fought about it when he brought it up. He just didn't care. When I gave him the divorce papers, he said he's not signing anything, and he'll ask his mother to apologize when his parents arrive and get done with this. Listen, I don't need him to sign it to get a divorce. It would only make things complicated. That's it. His mother said she has nothing to apologize for. She wouldn't apologize for having suspicions. She didn't accuse me of anything, and I can leave if I want to. So that's that. I did leave that night because I wasn't going to get an apology, and he didn't seem to understand that him reinforcing that it's okay for her to meddle is why I want a divorce in the first place. He eventually told his parents he'll be coming over from time to check up on them. He is their only child, and not to bother coming over anymore until she apologizes. She wasn't amused. She told me I am taking her son away, and somewhere would take my son too. She is not someone that you can talk to, I'll tell you that much. It's like talking to a wall. All she knows is insulting or being passive-aggressive on a good day. We're not getting a divorce. We talked the day after. He said I can always file for a divorce, but we should at least try couples counseling because he doesn't want a co-parent. Edit 1. He doesn't want to lose his son, plain and simple. Although it's not like if we were to get divorced, he wouldn't be able to see his son, but whatever. He did say, when we talked the second time, that he can see how he was wrong, especially knowing his mother. He also mentioned that he'll just shut her down if she meddles this time. But what can I do with just words? I hope he can learn a thing or two on how to deal with his mother in counseling because she is truly overwhelming. If counseling would help him understand that a couple means two people, not three, and our marriage is a bit crowded right now, that's enough for me. People saying that I am overreacting in my last post made me ask myself, do I actually want a divorce, or am I just mad? I wanted the divorce at the time. It seemed like the only solution. But if counseling would help us, I can try to work things out. I hope this is a good decision. If not, I am not stuck. I'll take my son and leave. I have a friend who got divorced in 20 days, an uncontested divorce. When you are on the same page regarding how things would be divided, including custody, it's a matter of how long the court would take to review and finalize the divorce, and you'll be done, Nolgas. That was my plan. Nonetheless, I am the one working from home, and my son is still so young. It's totally up to him. If he wants to see his son every day when he gets off work, or if he wants to see his son just a couple of times per week, because I am not tolerating this anymore. Oh, one last thing. People in my last post were debating if paternity tests should be mandatory or not. I thought that from what I wrote, it was clear I didn't cheat, and I have nothing against the paternity test itself. It should be obvious to everyone that it's not fair for the child nor the man to be tricked into living a lie. If he was the one who had suspicions, that's a big deal. We would have talked about why he thinks that, taken the paternity test for his peace of mind, and made sure we can trust each other, then move on, all without anyone interfering, let alone requesting the fucking paternity test. Edit 2. Someone asked, curious why they asked for the test, and why you're so against it. I don't want to assume there was some troubles in the past, but I feel like there's a lot of lead-up and information left out here. At this point, I've shared so much that these aren't too many details, I guess. I am not religious. I also dated women at a certain time. She doesn't like that and thinks that me not being religious or not being straight means I have no values or something. She hates that her son married a non-religious person. He is a believer, but he's a non-practicing believer. Either way, his religion or my lack of belief doesn't cause us any problems in our day-to-day life. I hope this clarifies things for you. Story 2. My friendship blew up on a trip to Japan. Original post. Finding out my friend of 5 years was an absolute when taking her on her first trip to Japan 1 year after I moved back from there. What did she do? Wouldn't add to the itinerary at all, but complained every single day when we got there. I took her to popular stations in Tokyo since it was her first time, and we had 7 days. But she wanted to go to the beaches and rise at 5 a.m. and stay out till 2 a.m. like she does in Mexico. Compared everything to Mexico, even wanting to tip a restaurant owner in USD because I do it in Mexico. Wanted to tip everyone and argued the whole time when I told her don't do it. It's rude, and when I got my Japanese friend to educate her on how to give proper thanks, she finds one person online who said it's not required but appreciated and wouldn't stop pressing me about how it's so good to tip. She would ask me how my legs were doing, and I'd answer honestly like, yeah, they hurt. And she later mocked and berated me, saying it made her feel bad. I was complaining about my legs. I never said they hurt out of my own accord, nor did I stop what we were doing or ask for breaks. If she asked, I said yeah, but she'd rather I'd lie. I asked if she was thirsty while we waited for open hours, and she said no, so I went to find me a coffee shop to grab one real quick. She goes, I don't even want to go there. You should have taken me to a real cafe. Girl, I'm just grabbing me a drink since you said no. Doesn't believe in itineraries, yet hated everywhere I took her, so got her friend back home to look up places for her. She had 6 months to look up anything to add, but she doesn't believe in itineraries. Got mad. I didn't order for her when she didn't ask me to help. Said, if we were in Mexico, I would have ordered for you. All she said was she was thinking about getting a bun today. She didn't end up ordering it herself because she didn't want to point to it and ask the cashier. I was standing 10 steps away from her. There was no one in line and we were the only ones in the store. Not sure why she didn't even attempt to order a bun in the case or ask me to help her. Started saying she should have gone on this trip with friend A or friend B to my face. Said she didn't like touristy areas, aka Shibuya, Asakusa, Harajuku, and wanted to go to rural areas while she doesn't even speak Japanese and was relying on me to quite literally hold her hand for everything. She's older than me, but both late 20s, Baro. Said she was going to leave the trip early if we spent a day with my sister at our Japanese friend's house. She wouldn't eat sushi because they have worms in them. Wouldn't go to karaoke because they were listening. Said I made her cry, which she's only ever done at her dad's funeral. Wow. Called dried squid a gag gift she can get her family. Accused me of cutting her luggage and wouldn't take out yen from the ATM, so I did, and she paid me back. Tried to tell me data works fine compared to our pocket Wi-Fi, and that we can just leave the Wi-Fi at the hotel when I asked her to hold it for us. I lived in Japan and will not go anywhere without a pocket Wi-Fi. This isn't even half of it, a whole 7-day nightmare. For the first time in my life, I actually slept through an entire 9-hour plane ride on the way back. ETA 1. I totally forgot some of the more effed up things, like asking, do you have an eating disorder? Or telling me she was going to smack my hand because I had it near my nose as I was choking on so much secondhand smoke, my throat was getting raspy, and trying to convince me it was my fault that I was getting inappropriate stuff happening to me. Man chased me down the streets of Ikebukuro, wanting to go to a hotel, but it's my fault because I was standing alone at the station. Anyone want to guess the profession she's pursuing? Now for the update. So I got a lot more responses and questions that I thought I would get on my last post. I figured I would share more about it for those who were interested. I also wanted to thank everyone who told me their own story of disaster trips. Some felt really relatable. Also, big thank you to those who asked me for Tokyo recommendations and those who said they would have been glad to have me as a guide. That made me really happy. I actually had 2 friendships that ended over that trip, and overall I felt really taken advantage of and underappreciated. Thank you all for helping sort some of those feelings by sharing your thoughts. Of course, this was a huge lesson learned, and I'll do my best to move forward with more caution and maturity. A little more context to what I went through. Got mad. I told her, no, I don't need her to hold my bag. Got mad, I told her I didn't want to walk 1 hour to our destination because she chose the route with one train with a 40-min walk. I chose one with 3 transfers and a 10-min walk. I said I put my compressions in my check-in on accident, and she replies, well, I'm smart and packed mine in my backpack. Told me she couldn't help with adding to the itinerary or join study sessions because she had family issues she didn't want to tell me about and didn't understand how that doesn't give her a pass to complain the whole time. She would agree to leave an area, but then make snarky comments about how she liked the previous area more. Told me sarcastically, I'm always right, when I tried to tell her she was reading a Japanese person's response wrong. As if I didn't know the concept of tatamai and hone-lol. Blew up at me for being on my phone at dinner. I was navigating the whole time, and we shared a hotel's bed. The only time I got to check in with my fam is when we sat down to eat. Kept saying her family, who was tracking her, was asking why we're at a laundromat or why we're at a mall and not outside. Would compare me to friend A, like, oh, she would have understood my joke. Used my other friend problem I was having against me, saying she understands why my friend did what she did. Yapped about how she hates Selena Gomez for writing a song about her ex. And when I told her nearly every singer-songwriter does, she told me to list names, and so I listed people, and she said no, but name male singers though. Heard my fave group XG play in Shibuya, and when I got excited she goes EW, only because they're a girl group. Acted like me, making an itinerary, meant that we couldn't walk into random shops along the way. Anytime we went somewhere spontaneously or didn't make a reservation, she would be like, see, this is how I travel. I just go with the flow because I do better under pressure. Anyways, so some people had mentioned how I didn't see any of this behavior prior to going on the trip, and I'll best honest and say there were red flags in our relationship, which I saw, and I actually did distance myself from her. But after I moved to Japan and came back, I was in this weird position and really wanted to reconnect with my old friends and establish a support system again. So I decided to start fresh with her, which was obviously a mistake, and I got what I deserved. She started changing during the pandemic, in which her and friend A got really close as we were barely talking at the time. I talked to a mutual friend of ours recently, and we both suspect that friend A had a part in fueling her toxic behavior. We always knew her as a sort of mama bear that took care of everyone and is super well-mannered and self-righteous. Everyone IRL likes her and looks up to her, but as one commenter pointed out, these good qualities are actually a disguise. She needs to be in control, and once she was out of her element and not in control, she completely lost her cool and was actually very verbally abusive. Which brings me to the next answer to everyone's question. She is pursing to be a detective or police officer. It's more fitting rather than ironic. She appears disciplined, morally superior, and dominant, but she's simply judgmental and controlling, and it's scary to think someone like her will have more power and influence. The next thing I want to address is people asking, why did she even want to go to Japan? I kind of think it's simple. I invited her and said, I know of good places and can take us around. I think a lot of people in my life want me to take them to Japan because it's easier to go with someone who knows how to travel there. She wasn't someone who ever dreamed of going to Japan, but the opportunity came up and she took it. She's more of a Koreaboo, TBA, but nevertheless, she was excited to go. She even started texting friend A on our trip saying they were going to make it up to her and go to Kyoto next year and that I could join, lol. Even though she told me to my face, no offense, but I'm never traveling with you again. The last thing people are asking is what I said to her when I ended it. So when we got back to the States, basically I started blocking her on everything. I argued with her for 7 days, and everything that came out of her mouth was a complaint or insult, so I had zero energy to go back and forth. I already know that nothing will change her mind or open her eyes. She texted me asking why she couldn't find my username anymore, and I said this: "Girl, no way we are friends anymore after the way you behaved all throughout the trip." Never in my life have I heard a grown adult complain that much and not know how to communicate without an attitude, gaslighting, and being condescending. You are ethnocentric, extremely judgmental, and ableist. You say a lot of racist microaggressions and misogynistic things, and the fact that people can't even be honest with you or that you can't be honest with others is wild. You'd rather not hear the truth, but see, honesty makes you feel bad. The entire time you talked about how you normally do things with your friends and family, and all it told me was that you're not very adaptable. But yeah, there was way too many unpleasant behavior and things said that showed your true colors, and I don't want any further involvement. Then I blocked her, but I got a new phone and saw she read it. So that's that. I'm not hurt, but I'm really bummed about my trip to Japan being ruined.